Hi there, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox, and I'm here on the Paper Tray Ink and Ink to Paper YouTube channel, and I'm sharing Big Balloon. It is a new stamp and die set, and it also has stencils to go with it, but let's take a look at the stamp set first. You can see that it has these big round balloons. I really like the roundness of them. It kind of gives it a real fresh look. Plus it has lots of different strings you can use and bows and other goodies. And of course it has a matching die set to help you cut out all these little pieces for you. And then I'm also using Big Balloon sentiments. You can stamp the balloon using these sentiments, or you can use them just as your sentiment in anywhere else on your card. They do have sentiments for all the different occasion, so it's really a fabulous set. And then there's 3 different stencil sets. There's the circles, hearts, and stars. I'm using the circles or the dots, and you can see that there's 4 different ones inside each of these little packets, and you'll get some large dots. It kind of graduates down to some really small dots, and I'm going to choose a small dot one and a large dot one. But for right now, I'm going to take an A2 size card base and then some watercolor paper. So I'm going to start out with the watercolor paper, and I'm going to take the biggest balloon there, and I'm going to stamp it up with hibiscus burst. Kind of blend it with my finger and spritz it with water, and then stamp it. I don't care too much that I get a perfect stamping, because I'm going to go back over it and with more ink, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. I'm going to now use bright buttercup, spritz it, stamp it down. I do wipe it off in between, of course, and then I'm using Hawaiian Shores, doing the exact same thing so that I'll get 3 balloons. And now that I have those all stamped, I'm going to take a brush with some clean water, and I'm just moistening that balloon, and it kind of smooths out the ink for you, especially because I'm using watercolor paper. And then on my mat, I've smushed on some raspberry fizz and pure poppy, and I'm just making it darker, going around the whole perimeter, plus adding in my little knot area of my balloon. There is a little small stamp in the stamp set, but I wanted it a little bit larger, so it's easy enough to just kind of watercolor that in. And I'm just going around the perimeter, making that darker, and then one side I'm going to make just slightly darker, just to give it a little bit more of a shadow. Then I'm going to use a little paper towel and blot off so it looks like I have a little reflection there. And I'm going to do this exact same things with the yellow. This is bright buttercup, but I also have smushed onto my pad orange zest. That's going to give me a little bit of a darkening color. So then I'm going to add in the ink and just color on the edges, and making sure I have that little area where it has a little bit of a highlight. And now with the blue, I'm going to use the Hawaiian Shores and tropical teal. Tropical teal is a little bit darker, so that's going to be my shading color. And then, of course, I'm going to take my little paper towel and just create that little bit of a highlight on there. And with those pretty much done, I'm going to let those dry really, really well. Either you can dry them with a heat tool, or you can let them dry naturally. I'm going to cut them apart now, and I'm going to cut around them. Now, there is a die that is round, but it doesn't have the little end to it in one piece. So I decided I'm just going to fussy cut around them, but you can use the die that's there. The dies are very useful for lots of different things. So here's my 3 balloons that I cut out, and now I have my A2 panel, my white cardstock. I'm just kind of arranging them to see how I like them, how I might want to like the arrangement. I'm just getting a mental idea because I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment on the big balloon. I'm choosing Celebrate. I thought that would be a nice one. I'm using lots and lots of anti-static powder, and I am inking that up really nicely with some Versamark ink. And then we're going to white heat emboss it. I'm using some bright opaque white embossing powder for this. This happens to be from Wow, but you can use any white embossing powder you might have. And then we're going to heat emboss that with our heat tool here. And that's going to finish that. We're going to set that aside. Now, as I told you with these stencils, I'm going to just choose 2 out of the 4 of the dots. It has a little rim around it that you can put on your balloon, where it goes all the way around the perimeter of the balloon. But I've decided I didn't want to use that today, so I am taking some washi tape and just covering it up and leaving the dots open so that it's not hampering or closing off any of the dots. I'm just closing off that little circle that goes around it. That way I can spread the little glitch gel that I'm going to be using with some confidence. So I did that with both sizes. I'm going to use the small size for this one. For these balloons, I'm using this iridescent glitz gel. You can use just ink if you want. That would be cute as well. Or you can use just plain embossing paste. Or, if you want, like the glue, don't have this glitz gel. There's lots of different pastes that do have glitter in them. Or you can sprinkle glitter on top of um, your plain paste if you happen to have that. There's so many ways you can make it glittery, or choose not to do it glittery at all. But I wanted to have it sparkle a little bit, so I'm just adding this in. And I'm doing this to all 3 of the balloons. I'm going to let those dry. It doesn't take very long. Now I'm going to take one of the strings. One of the strings is got kind of a ribbony look to it, and I like the look of that one a whole lot. I've decided I didn't want it to be black, but I wanted it to show up. So the soft stone was a little bit light and the weather vane was a little bit dark. So I ink it up with weather vane and then go over it with the soft stone, and that seems to just temper that weather vane just enough. And I just do one balloon at a time, getting an idea where that string should go, and then kind of remove it out of the way and then stamp it. This way it helps me know exactly where the positioning should be of these strings. Now that that's done, I'm taking another sentiment from the Big Balloon Sentiments, and I'm using Happy Birthday here, using some true black ink. I have put it in the stamp positioner so I know that it can be centered right and it can be straight, and I can ink it twice if I need to if I don't get a good impression the first time. If you're really good at stamping and can just do it by just using an acrylic block, then go for it. Now I'm taking some Ranger Opaque Matte texture paste, and I have a little bit of the Tropical Teal ink, and I'm mixing them together so that I'm tinting that paste. Now I'm going to take the big dots, and I got an idea while I had those balloons on there of where these dots should go. I just want a little smattering of the blue. I'm going to use each of these colors, so I'm going to start out with the blue, then go to yellow, and then pink. I'm cleaning this off every time that I use it, and I'm also being very careful not to cover over any of those dots that I just put down. And then between each color, I am letting them dry. It doesn't take very long at all, thank heavens, because I am very impatient. And so waiting a minute or 2 is no problem. You can go on with another task while you're waiting if you'd like. So I'm using the Bright Buttercup and tinting just a little bit of the texture paste again. And you can see I'm just using a tiny bit of it. I'm not using much of it at all. It doesn't take much to to just do these few dots, and it doesn't take much ink to tint it. But keep in mind that I do wipe off the stencil every time that I use it, and I also let it dry in between the colors, because I have to kind of go over, put the stencil over it, and I don't want it to smush it. You want to be sure that you just take just a couple of minutes of extra time. Now I'm using Hibiscus Burst, and I'm going to just sneak in a little bit of this pink. And I'm just getting an idea where I want to have it, just to give it a nice balanced look and a little festive look to it. And you can see it got a little edge on there. Just take the edge of your spatula and take off that extra paste. If you do it really quick, then it usually doesn't show. The biggest thing is to remember to wipe it off every time and then let it dry in between colors. And now that I have that, the panel is dry, all those little dots are, I'm taking some glitter paper. This is teal glitter paper. This happens to be Heidi Swapp's, but there are lots of glitter papers that you can use. This one is, I'm putting it on a white panel, and that's slightly larger, because that glitter paper is quite flimsy, so it needed a little extra strength. Then I'm putting the our little dotted panel on top. And then next I'm going to put the double stick tape on all over this whole section, and I'm going to mount it onto a white card base that's slightly larger so that we have a little white border showing. And then with some foam tape on the back of each of these balloons, I'm peeling those off and then pushing them into position, so that just pops them up a little bit when you have that foam tape behind it, gives it a little bit of dimension. And then because that little the little balloon knot area sticks up a little bit, I'm just going to use a glue dot right there, and I'm going to kind of stick it down. The glue dot is perfect because it doesn't push it all the way down like glue would, and it isn't as high as the foam tape, so it works out great. So here it is, all very bright and festive. I don't know about you, but I always need happy birthday cards, so I'm excited to have another one, and this will work for any color scheme that you happen to like, and it's a quick and easy one to put together. So I hope you really did enjoy it as much as I enjoyed doing it. And if you did, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. We'd love that. And so here I used the Big Balloon Stampin' Die set, the Big Balloon stencils, and the Big Balloon sentiments, plus of course some various paper tray inks. So you can find all of these items over at blog.inktopaper.com, or you can also go to foilfox.com. We have everything there too, plus much, much more. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time.